My name is David Faust, and the title of my talk is Towards a Unified Psychedelic World, How Psychedelic Group Therapy Can Bring World Peace. We now live in a world where psychedelic therapy is mainstream. We have scientific evidence that psychedelic therapy works, and we are hopefully going to receive legal MDMA therapy by the end of this year. Now, even more extraordinary than this, Rick Doblin, the former executive director of MAPS, promised us last year on stage at the Psychedelic Science Conference that we are heading toward a world of net zero trauma. This really awoke me to the reality of psychedelics as not only able to heal our personal trauma, but also heal the entire world. However, if we are going to take this claim seriously, that we really can heal the world's trauma and create a world peace, then we have to critically evaluate the values of the psychedelic renaissance. We need to be aware of the social causes for mental illness and how human beings contribute to the trauma we experience. Today, I want to talk about how there needs to be a change in values in the psychedelic renaissance in order to make this dream of net zero trauma a reality, how group therapy can help us do this, and then what the future will look like once we make these changes. Now, I think it's important that we take a step back and we look at our culture and examine what psychedelic philosopher Matteo Petramont calls our collective set and setting. It is a world of neoliberal capitalism. Matteo Petramont has declared that this move from psychedelics as associated with the counterculture as now being associated with the psychiatric mental health care industry is an example, a reflection of what is known as capitalist realism. Capitalist realism is the view that there is no alternative form of social organization besides capitalism, and that capitalism is simply reality. This comes from the philosopher Mark Fisher, who wrote the book Capitalist Realism, and declared that capitalism is now so pervasive in the public consciousness and so well established that it has become impossible for us to even imagine another form of social organization. However, it is vital that we criticize and move to change the values of the society since they are contributing to our mental illness. The value of hyper-individualism leads to social alienation. The neoliberal ideology encourages individualism and increases emphasis on individual personal fulfillment and decreases emphasis on community and social ties for fulfillment. This has, over time, led to what the US Surgeon General, for the first time in our American history, a loneliness epidemic. We are lonelier than we have ever been because of this value of hyper-individualism. The value of competition leads to interpersonal distrust and social anxiety. Wealth inequality has been cited as a cause of increased loneliness and decrease of levels in trust in countries where there is an extreme amount of wealth inequality. The larger the difference in wealth inequality, the more importance one places on their wealth as for social status. And this increase in competition to raise one's social status causes increases in chronic stress. The value of prioritizing monetary, material wealth makes us mentally ill. Neoliberalism encourages consumerism. And when we adopt these materialistic values, we are more likely to have symptoms of anxiety and depression, poor relationships, and lower self-esteem. The psychologist Tim Kasser studied how these materialistic values affect happiness, and that people who attach themselves to material things and accumulating material things are more likely to have anxiety and depression. These values of individualism, hyper-individualism, competition, and seeking material wealth and gain above all else form the cultural logic of late-stage capitalism, and they are contributing to our mental illness. The mental health care industry reflects these values and sees one's mental illness as an individual personal responsibility, totally separating it from the social and political causes. And our measurement of how healthy we are is how much are we contributing to the gross national product. This detachment from the social and political causes of mental illness and the focus on the individual and their brain chemistry and the need for psychopharmacological intervention in the individual is what Mark Fisher calls the privatization of stress. And instead of capitalism, capitalism, instead of being the only system that works, is inherently dysfunctional, and the cost of it appearing to work is very high. Now, I trust Rick Doblin when he says that eliminating the disastrous outcomes of the drug war must be prioritized over generating pharmaceutical profits. However, psychedelics are an industry now, and the values of this industry represent the neoliberal beliefs of a capitalist realist culture, and it is better called a corporadelic industry, which means this is the appropriation of the psychoactive agents by for-profit corporations and integrating them into corporate settings. We are colonizing the invisible landscape of the psychedelic experience and exploiting it as another resource, a commodity for the open market. This paradigm shift that we are expecting in the psychedelic renaissance will not occur unless we change the system and values of the society that we are a part of. If psychedelic therapy is accepted, if psychedelics are legalized, but we still are in a capitalist realist society, we will not enter in this new paradigm, and it will be as if nothing had changed. Matteo Petramont would say that if we are in ourselves to reflect the psychedelic values of love, connection, and unity, then we must ultimately change the world which reflects ourselves. Psychedelics are not only tools for raising personal consciousness, they are tools for raising social consciousness. It is vital that we go back to the countercultural roots of psychedelics, which emerged at a time concomitant with rapid social and political change in our culture. To take a psychedelic, even today, is an act of civil disobedience. We must eliminate this corporadelic culture and focus on corporate degrowth and community reinvestment. Mental health must be repoliticized, and it is vital that we raise awareness about how our society itself is making us ill. The political and social division, which has polarized us and separated us among different ideological groups, must be medicated. We no longer need a research renaissance. What we really need is a psychedelic revolution. We need rapid, compassion, political action, and leverage the subversive political potential of psychedelics to create this world peace beyond ideology and beyond this exchange of money and material value. But how can psychedelic science help facilitate this change? An amazing example for how psychedelics can contribute to social health and peace building comes from the relational processes and ayahuasca groups of Palestinians and Israeli study that was conducted by Israeli neuroscientist Leo Roseman and Palestinian peace activist Sami Awad. They had a group of 31 Palestinians and Israelis and conducted an ayahuasca session with them in hopes of peace building between them. The results of the study, where there were three major themes that occurred throughout the experiment. The first was a sense of unity-based connection, this boundary dissolving, ego dissolving, individual dissolving sense of consciousness, where they were able to overcome those rigid social and cultural identities that they had created and see themselves as part of a shared humanity. The second theme, which comes in contrast to the first, was recognition of differences in that connection. They were able to see not only were they all one, but that they were both Israelis and Palestinians, and they were able to overcome the hatred that they experienced between each other, and they were able to participate in the songs and prayers of the other culture. The third theme were conflict-related revelations, where they were able to receive spiritual visions of the traumatic experiences of their family and themselves in a new light. This study was very successful and proved that psychedelics in group therapy sessions can be used for peace building. This constitutes evidence that world peace is an achievable scientific goal. If we start with the hypothesis of how can psychedelics contribute to achieving world peace through administration of psychedelics in diverse group settings, then we can start to see this value change and method change that we so desperately need in psychedelic therapy today. There are measurable criteria for experimental success. We will rate levels of interpersonal connection and communication, reports of empathy, group cohesion over time, belief and worldview sharing, increases in social and political awareness, and community engagement outside of their sessions, and overall peace within oneself and with others. The experimental design will be rested on the primary assumption that there is a common human nature which we all experience and share. There will be open discussion and processing of the trauma suffered from political, social, cultural, or systemic causes. And we will focus on facilitating group engagement and boundary dissolving pro-social experiences. This will prioritize human connection as the method for healing, as opposed to strictly ego dissolution or mystical experience. Now, what this will eventually serve is as a prototype for psychedelic third spaces and a new non-violent, non-competitive world community ritual. We will have open psychedelic meditation centers where people can come and join together and play and participate in the human experience together. This idea would have been supported by psychedelic scientists such as Albert Hoffman, who imagined psychedelic meditation centers being possible for the future. This move towards reintegration with nature, opening up our authentic human experience, taking psychedelics, banging on drums, being artistically creative represents what Terence McKenna called the archaic revival. This return to our primitive ancestral roots and our lived present experience in the body with other human beings. Through this science and this research, we are becoming archaeologists for authentic human experience. Now, we are at a time of extreme privilege in science. For the first time in a long time, we are now able to scientifically research these substances, and we are at a very, very important time where the future of this therapy could be absolutely rejected or it could be embraced. But it is so important that scientists keep humanity in their hearts as we participate in this research. We need to think about how this will benefit the world and how this will bring world peace. Now, I want to leave you with a quote from Ram Dass, who said, "I think the heart is the only institution that I trust as an agent for social change. It's not the big organizations, it's not the government, it's not the family, it's not even maps. It comes down to one human heart, seeing another to another to another to another." Thank you very much.